You know, in my videos, I don't share a lot about my private life. To me, that's private. But I am sharing this story because it is a real world scenario for something that was in one of my videos last month. And I thought I'd share it because you might learn from it too. So, you know, I am the youngest of 4 siblings. My oldest sister was 26 years older than me. The youngest to me was my brother, and he was 13 years older. He died 4 years ago. So basically what I called my upline was gone. You know, my parents, grandparents, and all my siblings are dead. But luckily, I still had my youngest brother's wife, my sister-in-law, and we were very close. We do a lot of things together, and one of the things we loved to do was, yes, gamble. We'd go to the local casino or go to a casino and spend the night, and we'd have loads and loads of fun. Now, she was pretty lucky, and she got many jackpots over the years. I was not so lucky. I have what I always called the luck of the Black Irish, and that was bad luck. But we had fun. It was time together. We talked about family and everything, so we really enjoyed it. And once a year, we generally go to Vegas. A lot of times I had a conference there, so she'd accompany me. But of course, last year we didn't go because of COVID. It was kind of closed down, right? But we planned a trip this year. We were going on Monday, September 13th. And this year was going to be a little different because my sister-in-law had received a diagnosis of liver cancer, and she had had 2 treatments. We were hopeful she would be with us at least a couple more years to see her grandchildren's wedding. And she really wanted to go to Vegas again. You know, kind of like the bucket list thing, right? And in previous years we went to Vegas. We've also done side trips at Death Valley, to the national parks. We've also even done the zip line on the Strip. I mean, we have had loads of fun. So we planned this. We had a direct flight to Vegas. She was on oxygen occasionally at night. She had a lung condition too, but she decided she did not want to take the oxygen with her. So anyway, we boarded the plane. Everything was fine. We get in Vegas. We get an Uber and we go downtown because we had one night downtown. And I just noticed she was having problems walking any distance, out of breath. She just did not seem herself. So the next day when we went to where we were staying on the Strip, the Mandalay Bay, I got a wheelchair for her. I thought this way, you know, we can go to where we have to go and she doesn't have to walk and be out of breath. Well, that worked out pretty well, and she was doing better than me that day. And it was really nice. Her nephew that lived in Idaho came down 9 hours to meet us. He wanted to spend time with his aunt, and every time we went to Vegas, he did that. It was just so nice. So that night, Tuesday night, I just thought I'm going to give him some time together, and I went upstairs and read a book, which was probably good because I was losing. Better to go upstairs then, right? Anyway, they had a very nice time. She came in the room about 9:30, 9:45. What you got to remember is it's really, for us, it is almost 1 a.m. in the morning, right? Because we haven't adjusted to that new time. And she just said she's so tired, she doesn't even think she'll take off her clothes. I said, well, fine, you know, just relax in the bed. And then during the night, she was nauseous. She vomited a little. She just felt terrible. And to me, her breathing did not sound right. So about 4:30 in the morning, I tell her, I'm going to call your nephew. I think we need to go to the ER. I just don't like your breathing. And she's arguing with me, you know, very stubborn. Give me time, let me whatever. You know, something I ate doesn't agree with me, whatever. So I'm kind of arguing with her. All of a sudden, she's very quiet on the bed. I thought, wow, did she fall back to sleep? I went over there and could not wake her. She was completely non-responsive. I called the front desk, nobody answered, so I hurried up and called 911. And I have to admit, in a big city like Las Vegas, we got very fast attention. I think maybe the hotel itself had some paramedics because they were there. I mean, I am online when 911 trying to, they wanted me to tell each time she took a breath. And at the same time, I'm trying to, right, put on my clothes because I was in my nightgown, do a little something with my hair, get ready to go. But they were there very, very fast. She was still breathing when they got there, but she went into cardiac arrest. Anyway, then the ambulance crew arrived. We took a ride to the hospital. The ambulance was very nice. They let me sit up front and ride with them to the hospital. So they take her in emergency, say I have to go around to the front. I go to the front, and guess what? COVID. No visitors allowed in Vegas. So I was told I could not be with my sister-in-law and no idea what's going on. I mean, I am sitting outside kind of, shell shock type thing. Oh my God, what do I do? And luckily, her nephew called and said, hey, you guys want to do breakfast? And I told him what happened. He came right over. Well, he is should we say a strong person? He raised holy hell and said, we will see his aunt. And they relented, and they let both of us back with her in emergency. And they had done a scan of her lungs, and we saw it, and they thought COVID. And, okay, I know a lot of people say, hospitals say that right away, but if you saw the lung, you could understand why. It looked like cotton candy. But I said, she's mentioned before that she has fibrosis, something, lung disease. I think that might be the problem. And it was. When her test came back, it was negative for COVID. So they had her on all kinds of machines, right, monitoring her blood pressure, which wasn't good, giving her 100% oxygen, yet they could never get it above 70%. She's still completely non-responsive. They are going to be taking her into ICU. So we stayed with her until she went to ICU. And then we're sitting outside. I have to call her sons. She had two. Let them know what happened. And just think of that. You're, thousands of miles away and you get this call about your mother. And they had decided the youngest son and his wife was going to come out and join me. And the oldest son was going to stay there in case arrangements had to be made. So they were flying out on Thursday, because this was Wednesday morning. So there was not much change. We kept calling the hospital, and thank God for that nephew being there because he accompanied me, right? And of course, we're getting all these calls from everybody wanting to know how she's doing, what's happening. And Vegas just is not the place for that. I mean, you hear slot machines going off, loud music. We try to go outside and get a quiet place to talk to people, but that was actually really difficult. Anyway, her son and wife arrived on Thursday, and there still was no change. They did allow them to do a visit, even though there was no COVID visitors to ICU. And the next day, the nephew went home then because there was nothing more he could do. And so her son's wife and I were sitting there Friday afternoon in the hospital, and we had to make a decision what to do. Now, luckily, her oldest son had found her advance directive, but it was a little bit diffuse. It said she did not want to be kept alive on machines, basically. But do you want to be kept alive if there's a hope that you get better? Well, what does this mean? So it turned out that her condition wasn't caused by the liver disease. It was her lungs. They were much worse than people knew, or at least much worse than she shared with people. So we talked to the pulmonologist, and he said, I said, have you ever seen anyone recover from this, in this condition? And he said, no. So the three of us looked at each other, we called the other brother, and we had to make that decision again on Friday, which was September, I think 17th, to basically take her off the ventilator. Now the ironic part to this is that is when my 30 days of emergency preparedness video appeared, and it was talking about preparing for the inevitable death and the importance of an advance directive. You know, timing was just incredible. Anyway, we made that decision. We did take her off the ventilator. They gave her some pain medicine and anti-anxiety medicine to make it easier. And it was a relatively fast death. So then we're sitting there, and you have to fill out some paperwork for the morgue to pick up, because the funeral home in Vegas works with the funeral home back home. We're learning things we never knew. And we get the paperwork, and her daughter-in-law goes, wait a minute, this is wrong. They had her first name with her middle name as her first name, and then the middle name again. Didn't make any sense. So they said, well, it matches the hospital registration. And I said, but I gave him, the person that was registering us, her insurance card and her license. And they go, okay, you're right, it was our mistake, we'll fix it. So they did those little sticky things right, put it on there, put it on her chart, everything's fixed. And they came and picked up the body while we were still there. So then we go back. Now, we couldn't stay at Mandalay Bay because they had no rooms available at all for the weekend, because it was the iHeart Musical Festival, I think a Raiders game, and something else. Anyway, so we had to go off strip for a hotel. So going back to a new hotel, which was incredibly smoky. It was really gross. But anyway, we had a hotel room. Normally I was going to go back on Friday. I'd canceled it. I rescheduled till the Sunday when we could again get a direct flight back. So that Saturday, we call the mortuary there. We want to make sure they have all the information correct. And again, they had her name wrong, so we corrected it. But then they asked for other information that was needed for the death certificate. Okay, date of birth, knew that. Birth city, I knew that one. It was another state. And then father's name, okay, we know that. Mother's maiden name, none of us knew that. Luckily, there was still one sibling alive in her family, her younger sister. We were able to call and get that name. But that is something I never thought of. Gee, my kids are going to know it because I kept my maiden name. I never changed it, but it's something you don't think of. And then social security number. None of us knew her social security number. In the old days, it would have been on her Medicare card, right? Well, it wasn't. So luckily, the son staying back home went and found a tax return and got the social security number. So hopefully, we're thinking everything will be okay for the death certificate, which has to be filed in Clark County in Nevada before the body can be shipped back home. So Sunday, we just kind of mull around and go to the airport for our flight out. And it was canceled. I shouldn't say canceled. It was delayed 6 different times. We are there over 4.5 hours, and then they cancel it, right? So we get put up in a hotel for that night, and you only got like 4 or 5 hours time at the hotel, and you got to get up for the morning flight on Monday. We get there, and well, the day before, the reason it was canceled was because they didn't have a pilot. Too much flight time of people, whatever, I don't know. That goes back to those staff shortages again. So that morning, hey, we meet the pilot. Great. It's going to be okay. We had to wait. The plane was late coming in. We get on the plane and we are delayed for an hour and 45 minutes sitting on the plane. We can take off because of mechanical failure. But we finally do take off. We finally get home, exhausted. And the next day, the death certificate does come through with the wrong name on it again. So 3-hour time difference makes it a little bit more difficult. So by the time we get contact or whatever, we don't get the death certificate until that Wednesday. Well, they say they don't know. Nevada is pretty far behind because they're higher in COVID cases when it gets filed, when they can ship the body. And then on Friday, we heard we're going to get the body Monday night at 10:30 because they can't ship bodies on the weekend. Something we didn't know. So then on Sunday we're told, oh no, it's not coming through on Monday. This is after we met and made funeral arrangements for later, the upcoming week. And then we get called, yes, it is coming through on Monday night. So, okay. So we are at that funeral parlor on Wednesday, which, we're almost going 2 weeks after death, and doing just family visitation. And it was an open casket, and it was like a ghoul. It wasn't like her. It was just terrible. Our mortician was a bit upset with the mortuary out there. The coloring, yes, bilirubin sets when you have liver problems, but there were so many other things wrong. Anyway, we ended up doing a closed casket. And the next day, which would be that Thursday, we had the funeral. We had visitation beforehand, and the funeral home, bless their heart, had a slot machine in there, which everybody got a kick on because they knew that my sister-in-law loved to gamble. And in fact, the minister giving the, not sermon, whatever it's called, as part of the service, said it was the first time he's ever given one where there's been a slot machine there. So we did it, we had the luncheon, then we went back for the burial, and then myself and my niece and some of the other women gave her a toast, a shot of lemon rum chata, which she loved. And then the body was put in the ground and the dirt on top. Oh, and we threw our flowers in, right? So what's the point of this video? I think it's really important to talk to your loved ones about your advance directive, what you want. People said, well, why didn't you cremate her down there and bring the urn back with you? Because that wasn't her wishes. We are following through on her wishes. She wanted standard burial and to be buried next to my brother. What else can you learn from this? Talk to your relatives, your loved ones, about the advance directive. What does it really mean to you? I mean, do you want to be kept alive on machines? Do you want to be kept alive if there's only a 10% chance that you'll recover? What are your wishes in this case? In this case, maybe it was better for her to go out quick with a heart attack. Wasn't easier on me, but rather than facing the pain of a liver cancer death, I mean, it was so instantaneous, and she never recovered. And here's some of the information you need to have when somebody dies. You need to know their birthday. Okay, most of us would know that. You need to know where they're born. Again, I think most of us know that. But do you know their mother's maiden name? We did not. We knew her father's name. And of course, do you know the Social Security number? Well, nowadays people keep it pretty close to the chest, right? But it is something that is helpful when you're doing the death certificate. And if your time is coming soon and you have a bucket list, then do what's on it. Have fun. Do what makes you happy. I will miss her very, very much. I mean, she was like my best friend, even though she was 13 years older. My bank account will probably be a little bit better because I won't be gambling really much, but I really enjoyed the time I had with her, and I just thought I'd share this with you. Thank you so much for listening, and please discuss, well, first do that advance directive and then discuss it with your loved ones. It is very, very important. Thank you.